So this guy shot his wife through the heart on safari in Africa and called it an accident. Zambia believed him. She was ash in 3 days. 7 insurers paid him nearly $4.9 million. His name is Larry Rudolph, a dentist from Pittsburgh. He's serving life now, and the thing that finally caught him, and the moment that came back to bury him, was a song ending in a steakhouse in Arizona. In 2016, Larry and his wife Bianca had been married nearly 35 years, 2 kids, and 2 life insurance files. His worth $3.3 million, hers $4.8. By the year 2000, they were sitting on $9.5 million. Eventually, houses in Pennsylvania, Wyoming, Arizona. They had a room in the house just for what they'd hunted. Locked cabinet, rifles. They were rifle people. Hold on to that. And Bianca wasn't along for the ride. She was in her mid-50s, and she'd hunted lions. She'd hunted rhinoceros, and she was good at it. From 2009 to 2011, Larry Rudolph ran Safari Club International, president, the top of the entire sport. Which sounds impressive until you find out how he left. Because in August 2012, the board threw him out. Their reason, among other things, was that he'd allegedly used the job to commit adultery. So Larry did what any innocent man would do. He sued them. His lawsuit said it was false that he was an adulterer, and that saying it was damaging his marriage. That sentence, the one he made up, is the reason a judge later let a dead woman testify against him. Now, this marriage was already rotten. The court record says it flat. They both cheated on each other. But in the spring of 2016, Bianca's friend Cassandra Olmstead brought her something. Cassandra worked for Larry, and she'd found his emails to a woman named Lori Milliron. Lori was the operations manager at his practice. She'd worked her way up to partner, and she'd been with Larry for over a decade. Some of them were more than 5 years old. Lori to Larry, I miss you more than you can imagine. I love you, baby. Always will. 35 years of marriage, and she's reading them herself. Bianca told her friend she'd do anything to save that marriage. She didn't believe in divorce, but she was also afraid of it, because she told Cassandra something else. Larry forged her signature, and he was good at it. She said he'd written up an agreement, one that gave her nothing in a divorce, and signed her name to it. She looked for that document for years. She never found it. So she gave him an ultimatum. End it with Lori, or I divorce you. He denied it. She told him she'd seen the emails, so he admitted it, promised to end it, promised to fire her. Then in July, he flew to Cabo San Lucas with Lori. Late September 2016, they fly to Zambia, a place called Chinyembe, about 150 kilometers from the nearest town. Bianca wanted a leopard. That was the whole point of the trip. With them, a professional hunting guide named Mark Swanepoel and his game scout, Spencer Kokoma. Larry brought a 12-gauge Browning shotgun, told Swanepoel it was because leopards move fast. Here's a detail that matters later. Neither of them really knew that gun. They were rifle people. But Larry handled it well. The hunt was booked for 14 days. Larry wanted all 14. Bianca cut it short. She wanted to be home for her nephew's wedding. 12 days. They never saw a leopard. Not once. On the last night, Swanepoel unloaded his rifle. And Bianca's. And he watched Larry unload the shotgun and put it in its case. Each gun in its own soft case. Carried into their cabin, and everybody went to bed. Around 5 in the morning, October 11th, Swanepoel hears a gunshot, and then a sound he had trouble describing. He told the jury it wasn't really a scream. It was, his words, an expulsion of air. He and Kokoma run. Inside, Bianca's lifeless body is on the floor, in a pool of her own blood. And Larry is standing in the bathroom doorway. She'd been shot straight through the heart. The shot went through the gun case, which was unzipped, with the shotgun still inside it. The two of them were alone in that cabin. Swanepoel goes straight to her, puts his hands on her chest to stop the bleeding, starts CPR. The autopsy used one word for what that shot did to the left side of her heart: maceration. The tissue torn apart. Her lung was perforated. She bled out in under a minute. Larry says he was in the bathroom, heard the shot, came out, and found his wife bleeding out on the floor. But which account? Kokoma told the jury Larry first said Bianca shot herself on purpose, suicide. Only later did it become an accident while she packed. And Kokoma noticed something else. He was inside that cabin within about 15 seconds, and Larry was fully dressed. Zambian police say Larry told them he'd been wrapped in a towel. Zambian police landed on accident anyway. No foul play, case closed. Which was exactly what Larry needed, because he was already trying to leave. Now. The same day his wife died, Larry made a phone call to the American embassy. He got a consular officer named Otto Westhassel, and he asked him how fast his wife's body could be cremated so he could leave the country. Westhassel was surprised by how urgent he was, so Larry called back and asked again. October 13th. Westhassel sets up the crematorium. Then he finds out the cremation is happening the very next morning. And there's a problem, because nobody from the embassy has actually identified her yet. So Westhassel and two security agents hurry to the funeral home. And what they do there, it's paperwork. It's a box being ticked. They match her to her passport. They take photographs, and they measure the cavity the shot opened in her chest. Not one of them is looking for a murder. They are closing a file. The next morning, Bianca was cremated, 3 days after a shotgun went through her heart. And here's the part I want to be careful about. Her will said she wanted to be cremated. That was her wish. That's in the record. So the cremation itself isn't the suspicious part. The suspicious part is a man asking how fast he can do it on the day his wife died, so he could leave. And when they burned her, her own children still did not know she was dead. He was going to tell them in person, but a news article reported her death while he was still traveling. So he called his son from the road, and then he flew home and got to work. 2 days after he got home, Larry emailed a lawyer. He asked for, and I'm quoting the trial exhibit, the very best counsel to manage life insurance claims. Then he filed claims with 7 insurance companies, 9 separate policies on Bianca's life. On every single one, he wrote the same thing: accidental. And here's why that word mattered. An insurance rep explained it to the jury. Most states have slayer statutes. If the person collecting is the person who caused the death, nothing gets paid. The insurers weren't stupid. They hired an investigator to go check the Zambian ruling. The investigators came back and said there was nothing contradicting an accident. But they put one line in their report. The Zambian police still had unresolved questions. They paid him anyway. All of it. $4,877,744.93. Here's what that bought. $1.15 million down on a $3.8 million house in Paradise Valley, Arizona. $100,000 for a condo in Cabo. $239,000 for an Aston Martin DB11. $162,000 for a Bentley Bentayga. And less than 2 weeks after he flew home from the country where his wife died, he bought Lori Milliron a plane ticket to Phoenix. One way. For the next year, they lived it. Phoenix, Jackson Hole, Pittsburgh, Cabo, over and over. One of their regular places was a steakhouse in Arcadia, Arizona, Steak 44. The bartender there, Brian Lovelace, knew them. Regulars. early 2020, he's working, and he notices the two of them having an uncomfortable conversation. And then the music paused to change songs. And into that gap, Lovelace hears Larry say, harshly, "I killed my effing wife for you." Lori put her head down, picked up her purse, and walked out. And Lovelace said something about her that stuck with me. She looked embarrassed. She did not look surprised. Now, Larry disputed this. He testified what he actually said was, "Now they're saying I killed my effing wife for you." And Lovelace admitted he might have missed the first few words. Except, Larry said he first heard about the FBI investigation in January 2020 from Swanepoel, and Swanepoel testified he didn't raise it until the summer of 2020. And that's the hole the government drove through. Larry's version needs a they, people already accusing him. But in early 2020, by his own account, nobody had told him anything. There was no they. Here's the thing. One of Bianca's friends heard she'd been cremated and didn't believe it. Bianca was a strict Catholic, so she called the FBI. She told them about the affair, about fights over money. And she said this, "Larry will never divorce her. He'd lose too much." And in July 2019, the FBI in Denver was doing a review of suspicious deaths, and Bianca's name came up. So they rebuilt it, a duplicate shotgun, a duplicate soft case, and they test-fired the shooting itself to see how it could have happened. And they measured everything about Bianca, her arm length, the length of that shotgun, the angle the shot went in, the blood on her clothing, what isn't on the gun case. Remember those photographs? The ones a consular officer took because a box needed ticking? By then, Bianca had been ash for nearly 3 years. And in December 2021, Larry and Lori went on holiday to Cabo again. And the FBI let them because a Mexican trip meant a deportation. And a deportation meant they got to pick where he landed. They admitted that in court, by the way. He lands in Cabo. Mexican immigration detains him, and they put him on a plane to Denver. And while he is in the air, while he's sitting on that plane, the FBI files a new complaint, adding murder. He took off a fraud suspect. He landed a murder defendant. December 22nd, 2021, Denver International Airport. July 2022, Denver, federal court, 14 days of trial in front of Judge William J. Martinez. The government's case was that he picked that place, a cabin 150 kilometers from anywhere, because who was going to check? And then they took the accident apart, piece by piece. Her arm length against the length of that gun, the size of the entry wound, the angle, the blood patterns on her clothes, and the blood that isn't on the gun case. The defense said the marriage was open, that extramarital sex was fine with both of them, so there was no motive. They put on 5 witnesses, a firearms expert, a pathologist, all saying the same thing. She dropped the gun while she was packing. Their statement before trial, no eyewitnesses, no forensics, a chasm of conjecture. And they had that postnuptial agreement, the one saying a divorce would only cost him $2 million, which, if it were real, would mean he had no reason to do this. So the government brought in a former Arizona judge who said the document wasn't authentic. And then they brought in Larry's own friend, who testified that Larry talked to him about signing a postnup with Bianca, about 10 years after the one in evidence was supposedly already signed. And then there's Bianca herself, because the judge let the jury hear what she told Cassandra Olmstead before she died. Now there's a rule for this, and it is a beautiful rule. If you are the reason a witness can't show up, you don't get to complain that she isn't there. The judge didn't have to be certain. He just had to think it was more likely than not, and he did. He found that Larry killed her, at least partly, to keep her mouth shut about the divorce and about that lawsuit. The lawsuit where he said it was false that he was an adulterer, and that saying it was damaging his marriage. And on the stand, at his own murder trial, Larry admitted it. Admitted he made it up. Admitted he doctored his answers to hide Lori. Admitted he lied under oath about her again in 2016. Bianca had to answer questions in that same lawsuit, under oath, and she denied the affair too, when she already knew. She lied under oath to save that marriage. It did not save her. Then there was Lori's own trial running alongside his, and two women who talked to her. One was Rachel Anders. She said Lori told her Larry couldn't divorce. Bianca would take his money and his practices. The other, Anna Grimley, said Lori gave Larry an ultimatum. Get rid of her, or Lori was gone. And I have to be straight with you. The judge told the jury they could use both of those against Lori, not against Larry. It's what Lori said to other people, not evidence against him. Legally, that's Lori's problem, not his. But maybe I'm reading too much into this. Look at the shape of it. Bianca gave him an ultimatum in 2016, and a coworker said Lori had given him one years earlier. One shot in a cabin in Zambia answered both of them. Last to testify was Larry himself. He denied all of it, said it was an accident, said he was in the bathroom, and he said the time he spent with Lori after Bianca died was part of his grieving process. The jury got the case on a Friday. On Monday morning, they came back. Guilty on both counts. Foreign murder committed on another continent, and mail fraud. Lori Milliron was convicted too. Accessory after the fact, obstruction, and 2 counts of lying under oath. She got 17 years. August 2023, Larry Rudolph was sentenced to life. 20 years on the fraud running alongside it, plus pay back all $4.87 million and a $2 million fine. They took all of it. Larry's case was over. Lori's wasn't. He appealed. In September 2025, the 10th Circuit said no. Every conviction stands. He asked the Supreme Court to look at it. In January 2026, they declined. For Larry Rudolph, his direct appeal is over. That's the end of that road. Lori's case isn't quite closed. In June 2026, the appeals court threw out one of those convictions for lying. Their point? If a witness gives you a vague answer, ask a better question. Don't charge her with a crime. The rest of her convictions stand. She is still serving 17 years. Larry Rudolph planned it almost perfectly. That's the part I can't get past. What he couldn't plan for was a man from the embassy with a clipboard who photographed a woman nobody had told him was murdered, and a bartender who happened to be standing there when the song ended. Bianca Rudolph hunted lions. She raised 2 children. She was married to that man for nearly 35 years, and she spent the last months of her life lying under oath to protect him. So what got you? Him swearing under oath that he wasn't an adulterer? Or Bianca swearing it too, to protect the man who would do this to her? Tell me in the comments. So, be careful who you trust, and take care of yourself. Everything here comes from public court records and news reporting. The images are illustrations, not footage, some drawn from real photographs, others are best guess at people no camera ever caught. The facts are not a guess. All of it is true.